sorry, just having a bit of a Peter Frampton reverie moment there. Good morning, everybody. Robert Phoenix, and this is 15 Minutes of Flame. I'm back in the case after being away for, well, let's see, just Sunday night, as I sat there and watched one of the greatest collapses in Super Bowl history, as the 49ers lost to the Kansas City Chiefs, as it should be, as it was prophesied and foreseen prior to the actual Super Bowl itself. There was too many numbers happening in the Chiefs' direction, and I'm going to talk a little bit about that, and also some other stuff around the Super Bowl, some of the halftime stuff, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And kind of put that behind us. I'm going to get into some of the Iowa caucus craziness, madness, the broken system, which is what we're dealing with now, and also some astrology, because I want to catch up on some astrology. We didn't do any astrology on Sunday night, so I want to break up the chart of the moment as we look at for the rest of the week, even though I wasn't here yesterday. Let's see, what else can I share with you? Oh, well, you know who's coming. Come on, let's go. Let's go. I did a show with Emily last night. We did another Matrix Mash, and Jasper he was just out of control, man. He was so out of control. It's like he just, here he is. Jasper, astrological cat. There he is. He's right there. A little below the line. A little below the line. Let's just check in with Chatland. Oh, by the way, for everybody that's signed up to subscribe, thank you very much. You can go to my homepage at robertphoenix.com. I've got a big fat graphic there that you can click through, and I've got different levels and different rates, 5, 10, 20. You get some goodies. And so for those of you who subscribe to the upper levels, I'll begin to get some of those goodies out today. And just a reminder, if you subscribe for $10 a month, you'll get a 365-day report for your astrological year ahead. You'll also be able to attend a webinar in the upcoming, in the future here, in the days to come, because I'll be doing some webinars this year. I'm going to put out a whole schedule of webinar material this week. And for the $20 level, you get the same thing. You get the 365, and you get to attend 2 webinars. So it's a pretty good deal. You know, the webinars are going to be around $40 a piece, right? Or you get the group. You can sign up for the group webinar and get a discount. So you're looking at roughly $80, and then another $25, which is what I sell the transit reports for. So what are we talking about? $105. $105 worth of value to you, because you support this work, and I really do appreciate it. Let's see who's in the chat room today. We got Judy. Hey, Judy. And then Colleen and Donna. Hi, Donna. Donna, I got to get back to you, by the way, and I will. Stephen. Hi, Stephen. Nice to see you. There's Joe. Hi, Joe. 10 Dragon. There's Charles. There's Kathy Warner Leap, KWL. We had a little webinar on Saturday. It went really, really well. It was for people that had bought the course in the last 6 months. And I think we had like only 3 people, but you know, I put the call out there, and I've got one more webinar this week, this Saturday coming up. So if you have purchased the course, the 11th House Academy, in the last 6 months, you can go. Send me an email, rpm1122@zoho.com, rpm1122@zoho.com, and I'll send you the link to the Zoom presentation, right? So it'll be a good thing. It'll be a very good thing. Okay, why don't we get into some of the high strange. I want to talk a little bit about the Super Bowl. And it was Super Bowl 54, which is a 9 symbolically, numerologically. It's the end of a cycle. And we capped the end of a cycle with literally the capstone, starting at Super Bowl number 1, which is where the Kansas City Chiefs played the Green Bay Packers and lost that game. Now, what's interesting about that game and subsequent Super Bowls is if you go back, and I've been a football guy, and if you go back and you watch that game, the Kansas City Chiefs were dominating the first half of that game. Like, they were giving the Packers everything that the Packers could handle, because the Chiefs were kind of an advanced team for that time. They had Hank Stram as their coach. They were running a lot of shifts in motion. They were doing things that no other team in professional football was doing. And the Packers were basically a meat and potatoes team. Vince Lombardi, power sweep right, power sweep left, trap stuff. Not spectacular. The other thing too is that the Kansas City Chiefs got into essentially drafting and signing very, very talented, skilled, and athletic players that were coming from places like the EBCU, which is the Black College circuit. Willie Lanier, who was just a monster middle linebacker. So they also had an athletic edge on the Green Bay Packers. They had Mike Garrett, who was a Heisman winner at USC, playing running back for them. So they had a lot of talent. Otis Taylor came out of the ECBU, and again, just getting different kinds of players. And all of a sudden they collapse in the hold on a second, let me get rid of this. Then all of a sudden they collapse in the second half of the game, which is kind of what the Niners did, although the Niners were going to collapse in the fourth quarter. Normally I do a chart for the game, and I didn't do one this year because, well, I kind of knew it was going to happen. And being a 49er fan, it was a bit dispiriting on kind of my part. The NFL is really pandering, and I'm going to get into this in the Super Bowl a little bit. The NFL is really, really pandering to the woke generation. Now, what they've done is they've eliminated the, sort of the Bolshevik communist, corporate communist rabble-rouser in Colin Kaepernick, but they have doubled down in terms of trying to appeal to the woke generation, just like all the other corporations in the United States and globally are doing everything in their power to pander to this I don't call them an underclass, but they're from the millennials down, everything that we're seeing now in terms of commercials. I'm going to play a commercial from the Super Bowl, by the way, which will blow your mind. Commercials, corporate ideology, corporate structure, not even corporate, more corporate ideology, giving back, creating this idea that corporations are good and friendly. I'll give you an example. One of the commercials during the Super Bowl was, I think, for like Michelob Light or one of these, god awful light beers. And essentially what they were saying is, well, if you drink a 6-pack of beer, for every 6-pack of beer, we're going to put it towards $1 towards organic farming. See, this is where corporations now are finally starting to put their heads into a certain place. Like, we're going to give this idea, this example that we're giving back, because the give back economy or the give back ideology or philosophy is going to be very important for the young millennials, the young millennials, aka the Zoomers. And Emily and I talked a little bit about this last night. And one of the things that this generation is having to deal with is they're having to deal with guilt. They're having to deal with guilt and this idea that the earth is dying, that there's climate change, and there's all kinds of inequality in the world. So whatever it takes in order to balance out that ledger sheet, they're going to be down with. And the reason why is because basically we are moral and we have a conscience as these beings, for unless they're slaughtered out of us by some kind of third-party ritual, but we have morals and a conscience. So now they're appealing to that, in as much as they're appealing to the 1960s generation, which was, turn on, tune in, and drop out. I mean, that was a whole message then. Now the message is reach out, give back, and save the earth. I mean, so we're seeing this now. It's coming all the way across, all the way through all these different levels of advertisement and this kind of corporate consciousness, which is theoretically people first. And it's really not about people first. It's really a ploy. It's a ploy to get into the ideology and the psychology of young people so that they don't actually turn on the corporations. Now, who knows? Maybe this thing with, I think it might have been Budweiser or Michelob, or who knows? Maybe it works out okay. Maybe they actually support organic farming. Great. That would be a wonderful thing. On the other hand, maybe it's just another way for them to virtue signal endlessly, the endless virtue signal, which is kind of where we're at. And getting back to the Super Bowl, Obviously, the NFL needed a new poster boy for their. Here comes Jasper. He's about ready to go Godzilla on the whole thing right now. It's like he's not even content. Jasper wants to go like full on Matrix. He wants to just jump into the program. He wants to be looking back at me from the other side of that camera. He kind of is. He's on the other side of the screen right now. But I think he really just wants to insert. He's the new Neo. He's the new Neo. That's what he is. Anyway, so the NFL needed a new poster boy because Eli Manning's retiring. Tom Brady's at the end of the line. Let's see, Drew Brees might retire. Phillip Rivers end of the line. Ben Roethlisberger end of the line. These are all quarterbacks that essentially came into the league in the early 2000s. Tom Brady in the 90s, and Brady will be around to play about maybe 1 or 2 more seasons, and then I think he'll hang it up. He'll hang his cleats up. So they need a new face. They need a new face for the NFL, and that face is Patrick Mahomes. And that was going to happen regardless. He was going to be the guy. And the 49ers, much to their credit, almost basically stopped the train in its tracks. But they didn't, and there were a lot of, and again, I've been watching football for a very long time, and there were egregious calls that went against the 49ers. And not one egregious call went against the Kansas City Chiefs. And they had this guy, Bill Vinovich, who was, he's a fixer. He's a professional ref. He refs not only the NFL, but he also refs NCAA basketball. He's a professional fixer. He was in New Orleans when they had that penalty, that non-call against the Rams, and it was the big pass interference call, which would have changed the outcome of the game. It really would have. And the Saints would have won that game, and it would have been the Super Bowl against the New England Patriots, but that's not what the league wanted. What the league wanted is where they wanted this franchise to go in with their young quarterback and their young coach and their brand new stadium in Los Angeles so that they could get some momentum and get people to buy the PSLs and all the seats that go along with it. So that was the league's decision. The NFL isn't really the NFL anymore. It's more like WWF. And I've known this for a very, very long time. So going into the game on Sunday, I kind of knew the outcome in advance, which is why I really didn't get into it astrologically. Although props to Mark Matheny, who did say that Kyle Juszczyk had some good aspects, and he did, and he actually had a really good game. Should have used him a bit more. But there were some very egregious calls that went against the 49ers, game-changing calls, by the way. And, of course, they get Pat-Mahomes, who's going to be their poster boy, theoretically, for the next 10 to 12 years. The Kansas City Chiefs will probably be a flagship franchise. And Mahomes really didn't play very well. And I like the kid. I think he's a really, really good kid. He comes from a good family here in Texas. And I watched him play in college, immensely talented. I don't know how people slept on that talent, by the way. Just incredibly talented. But he sucked. I mean, for three and a half quarters, he sucked. He had a few minutes at the end of the game with some blown coverages, and he made some good throws. And for that, he was the MVP. Please. The MVP should have been Damian Williams or Chris Jones, and probably Damian Williams, who scored multiple touchdowns, and the 49ers couldn't stop him running. That guy should have been the MVP, but they didn't want him. They wanted Pat. So it's all scripted. You know, it was a completely scripted affair. So what I wanted to do is I wanted to play you a very interesting. Let me get into the astrology for the day, because I'll get into the Super Bowl stuff. And I got to burn today because I got a client at 9:30. So let me see if I can get into the astrology stuff today for you guys, since we didn't do the new Matrix Mash with me and Emily, talking about some of the Super Bowl stuff and a whole lot more, by the way. Let's see. And I want to get into the Iowa thing, because that is just insane. Does it surprise you, though? Does it surprise you that the whole thing is just melting down and breaking down? The system is broken. It's totally broken. And when people understand it now, just wait till the November election comes around, if it comes around. You think the Democrats are going to want a fair election against one Donald John Trump? Hell no. They'll do everything in their power, because Jasper, I love you, Jasper, but today you're not Jasper the astrological cat today. You're kind of Jasper the asshole cat today. But in a good way. I mean, he could never be a true asshole, because he's so loving. He's like your slobbery uncle that comes to any family event. that kind of awkwardly inserts himself into everything. Okay, let me find that chart of the moment. Chart of the moment, where are you? Chart of the moment. Okay, I'm just going to punch it up here. Let's just do this because I have it on the screen. Here we go. All right. Where are we now? There it is. Let's just get into a little astrology. Let's get into a little astrology, shall we? Let's dip into our Astro Cup. Okay, so this was the chart of the moment. Oh, it's not even for, sorry, it's for Verdun, France. If you're living in Verdun, France, this is your chart of the moment. Let me go back here. Give me 1 second. My apologies. We'll get there. It will just take a moment, uno momentito. It'll be pretty much the same. But just for the sake of clarity and accuracy, got to play the Virgo way. All right, here we go. Where am I going? I'm going here. I'm going here. All right. Let's just do a quickie here. It's not that far away. Let's do a little Austin reference point. Just throw it in there. Boom. All right. This will be a more accurate assessment version / of the chart of the moment as we get into some astrology. Astrology's hot, man. It is the thing right now. All right, here we go. Oh, different. Way different. Okay. I thought it was going to be close. Here we go. All right, so right now we're talking about Pisces ascending and Neptune on the ascendant. And we've got Moon in Gemini today at 14 degrees. So we're starting off with a Moon-Neptune square, confusion at times around the emotions, cloudy affections, perhaps misplaced. Watch out for gossip today. Watch out for gossip and watch out for trying to save people, at least for the next 24 hours. Try to stay out of savior mode with that Moon-Neptune square. We also have Venus in lovely. I like Venus in Pisces. It's a nice place for Venus. Over the course of the next few days, what are we at? 20? Is that it? Let me see here. Venus is at 26. So what are we talking about? Friday, we're going to have a Venus conjunction with Chiron. That's a lot of triage right there. And because we have Chiron in Aries, so that's emotional triage, vulnerability, sort of the bleeding of feelings in emotion can also be connected to subversive power plays inside of emotion. Watch out for victimization in your interpersonal relationships towards the end of the week. We do have a conflict going on right now between Venus and Mars, and that's not always bad. Squares create friction. In a Venus-Mars square, could be interesting friction if you're in the right company. If not, then Venus-Mars squares could actually be a bit conflict-oriented, but there's some outs here. We have a nice sextile from Venus to Jupiter, and we have a nice sextile from Venus to Pluto, a nice sextile from Venus to Saturn, and sextiles are about building, right? You have the opportunity to try something new. So we have Venus in Pisces, which is flowing and emotional and deep and soulful, sextiling to Capricorn, all this Capricorn energy. You can build on your emotions in a constructive way. So if you're artistic or creative, this is a really good time for you to get structured and to be able to put your creative ideas into action. Really, really good time for that. We do have kind of the Mars-Neptune square. Mars beginning to separate now. And that is usually, we had that Mars-Neptune square during the Super Bowl. Boy, and that was kind of intense, wasn't it? With that Mars-Neptune square. There was a lot of weird kind of victimization energy in some ways around the Super Bowl. And I'll get into some of that, especially with the halftime show. And then, of course, we have the Sun trine. We're 15 degrees already. We're halfway through Aquarius. Look at that. Sun trine to the moon today. And this is a very short and brief aspect. It'll last for most of the day. But again, it gives the ability to have some really nice emotional flow and be able to kind of detach in some ways, right? Because we're talking about air signs here. So be able to detach from your situation, even if you do get caught up in the kind of the messy square from Mars to Neptune, or the messy square from the moon to Neptune. The air signs give us the ability to rise above and look at our situation from a heightened perspective. And today favors innovation with a Mercury sextile to Uranus. So innovate, be creative, find solutions that are outside the box. We got Mars on the midheaven today, which is, I guess, a good thing for me with this YouTube stream. So it's an interesting day. It's an interesting day. Don't waste the energy here of this Venus sextile to these planets, which will be in effect for the next couple of days. Make it happen. Put your creative ideas into action and get structured and organized around them, and they can pay off for you. All right? There we go. There's our astrology for the day. We check in with you guys and see where you're at in the grand old Chatlandia. Did anyone watch the halftime show? Ritual. Heard it was, yes, I watched it, yes. We're going to talk a little bit about that. Where do I start around the halftime show, the Super Bowl? One of the things that one of the things that I find interesting around the whole decoding process, which, I've been doing this since I was in college, right? Because I was an English major in college, so I'd go in and I would start to decode books and short stories, and that's what you did. Like you'd get into something, you break it down, and you try to find the deeper meaning, the context, and it was all about writing essays and kind of understanding the material. So my training around some of this stuff came to me when I was in college. So I've been doing this for a while. And I started to really break down the Super Bowls. I guess it was when Madonna, because prior to that, you could go back and you could look at the Janet Jackson, Justin Timberlake Super Bowl, which was a psyop. It was a total psyop. You could look at that, get into that. Maybe you could look at the Prince halftime performance. But by and large, those performances were meant for a different kind of audience. They were meant for boomers. And you'd have, the Rolling Stones, or you'd have Aerosmith, or you'd have The Who, or you'd have Bruce Springsteen, or you'd have Tom Petty. It was the time of the rock band. And the rock band is over now. The rock band is over. Rock and roll is dead. I've been talking about this for a while. So right around, 2010, when we had, it was 2011. It was the Super Bowl halftime show with Madonna that I really got into, and I got massive hits off of that breakdown on my website. And I actually had, the NFL did not allow me to use their halftime footage. They're very tight on that stuff. So essentially, and I think that Madonna Super Bowl was a game changer, because that's when they went from this kind of model where they were having these rock bands who were, catering to the boomer crowd. And the Madonna Super Bowl was the most blatant, out and out ritual act of symbolism in the Super Bowl that I'd ever seen. And so I broke that down, and ever since then we've been in this. Oh God! Did you stop that? My God! Jasper is more than the Deus Ex Machina. Look, you know what, Jasper? I think here you can stop doing that now. Sorry. I'm having to use my external camera because my internal camera is on the blink today. So in the external cameras there, we get the variable. Anyway, so since 2011, where are we now, 2020, last 8 years, we have been inculcated into the realm of the symbolic. So so what we've been looking at and trying to break down and decode these events, and there's a lot happening with these events. There's a ton. But what we've been doing, what's been happening is we've been indoctrinated, right? We've been surreptitiously indoctrinated into a mystery cult by breaking down the symbols, which I think is really interesting. And I looked at the Super Bowl, and of course there's stuff happening there. Of course. So the main theme for the Super Bowl, and it was Sheik Kali, the Eater of Souls, meaning J-Lo. Yeah, quite possibly. The theme that I saw mostly was political awakening, awokeness, and the empowerment of women. So this is the NFL slipping this stuff in the back door. Even though they decided that they didn't want to play ball with Colin Kaepernick anymore, they know that they have to continue to build a new fan base because their old fan base is getting older. And the consumption of media is really being altered. Like, young people do not sit through entire games. They don't have the attention span. And the NBA knows this, and so what they do is they have a bunch of highlights. Kids are in the slam dunks. They're just in the highlights. It's all instant gratification. That's why I doubt baseball will last another 20 years. I think by the time we hit 20 years out, baseball will be diminished to kind of a minor sport. I hate to say it, but it's true. And because they're absolutely ruining baseball. So they have to rebrand the NFL. They have to rebrand the football experience because their old clientele is going to pass away. And don't think they don't know this, right? So they've got to build credibility, and they've got to build new ways to be able to bring that content to the masses, or to the masses are going to consume that content. So what we had J-Lo and Shakira basically doing kind of a porn show. It was soft porn, pole dancing, hip gyration, because it's all so cool in Miami, right? And Gucci. Because that's what the NFL does. They settle on a location. It's like, well, who are the artists here? And how can we tap into the local artist pool and create something? This is what they do. So, let's go to Miami. Let's go to Shakira, even though she's from South America and is part Lebanese, but that's a whole other story altogether. And then let's bring in J-Lo. So that's what they did. They brought them in, and they created that local flavor and local vibe, right? But it was all very vacuous, theoretically somewhat glamorous. But then there was a period, it was a really interesting period, where Shakira was performing, and I said, this is the end of the rock band. And then all of a sudden Shakira gets a guitar and she starts like playing fucking Led Zeppelin, right? And it's like, okay, screw you, the rock band stuff is over. But I'm a woman and I can rock just like a man, motherfucker, right? I mean, that's kind of what the message was. So it's like, yeah, we can rock just like men. And, so what? So what? There's no more rock bands. Well, we can rock too. And that wasn't bad. It wasn't really, but it was a statement, right? I mean, it was more of a statement than it actually was kind of an aesthetic sort of flip in some ways with the presentation. So they get out there, they gyrate, they pole dance, whatever. And then there's this weird moment, very weird moment with the kids in the cages. And was watching this, I'm like, wow, man, this is really bizarre. It's totally bizarre. Let me show you the image for this with the kids in the cages. Get up here. Oh, that's not it. I'm gonna get rid of that. That was my sign for the game. It was a good sign for a while. Here, I'll show you this one picture. This is the kid. I think they're all girls, or they're girls that look like boys and boys that look like girls. The unisex universe. So here she is. She's singing. She's in a cage. She's totally in a cage, and it's like, you got to be kidding me. And the cages. I'll show you a zoomed out view. It was really bizarre, totally bizarre. So let me show you the zoomed out view of these cages. Of course, the girls are white, wearing white, and they're virginal. So here's the zoomed out view of what's going on right there. Here we have the kids in the cages, and the cages are bizarre looking. I mean, they look like ovums. They look like eggs, and it's like the egg and the ovum is a cage, and it almost becomes like a symbol of oppression, like this symbol of oppression for birth. And there's almost kind of a Venus symbol going on here with the stage. It feels very Venusian. We have the circle, we have the ramp over here. Feels very, very Venusian. You can see in the background the Puerto Rican flag and this virginal energy. And the girl has escaped the cage during her set. But there's also this kind of underlying theme here. Like, well, are these the kids in the cages at the border? Or are these the kids that are in the cages that are being trafficked? But there's also the womb is the cage and the ovum is. It's a very strange symbolism that they're kind of slipping into this event. And what do we have here? So very strange symbolism. And Edward Bernays, who was one of the masterminds, one of the symbolic masterminds of the 20th century, understood the power of the egg. He understood the power of the egg. And the story with Bernays was that he was hired, I think, by Betty Crocker or General Mills or one of those companies. Is Betty Crocker a General Mills thing? Right? Is that what it is? So I think he was hired by General Mills. And at that time, General Mills was putting together instant cake mixes because they wanted to sell these instant cake mixes. And they found that the instant cake mixes were failing. Like, you think that, oh, this is easier and it would be less strenuous for a busy housewife. So then they hired Bernays. And Bernays brought these women in, and he talked to them, and he interviewed them. And he found that the majority of them felt guilty for not making something from scratch. So Bernays thought about it, and he thought about it, and he thought about it, and he said, okay, well, the most universal symbol of femininity is the egg. When we get into the egg, we get into Easter, Esther, Ishtar, right? There's all this kind of symbolic referencing with the egg. So he said, okay, well, why don't you ask these women to crack an egg and put it in the cake mix? Wouldn't really change it all that radically. So that's what they did. They started to put the egg into the instructions to make the cake. And then whenever they would do a commercial, they'll simply crack an egg and put the egg into your Betty Crocker cake mix. And then that was it. Once they did that, then it took off, right? It totally took off, and they were able to sell more of these cake mixes. He was also very instrumental in getting bacon and eggs to be the breakfast du jour in the United States, because prior to the bacon and egg experience, people would have perhaps like a muffin or some bread with some butter and jam on and some coffee, and that was breakfast. You know, the bacon and egg breakfast was a construct, and it was basically brought to Bernays by the pork growers of America. But he popularized it, and again, it's the egg, which is this very symbolic image. And so when we go back to that Super Bowl image, what do we see here? We see the egg. We see the egg and the ovum as a cage right here. So essentially, this is happening on a subconscious level. Like you don't have to narrate this. You're already bought in. You're already got your hips gyrating, and probably pole dancing at home with J-Lo and Shakira, and then they slip the egg in. And this is the fertilization of an idea and the fertilization of a concept. And that was a big part of the Super Bowl. Big part of the Super Bowl. But it's also not just the egg, but it's the ovum as a cage. and that they get into all kinds of like tributaries around that, with reproductive rights being oppressive and all that shit. Okay, let's talk a little bit about the Iowa caucus. I want to shift gears to that because I got to get going today. Let me just bring this up. Apparently, they should just call it, named it the Iowa Chaos. Here, I'll just throw the latest up, and then I'm going to get into some of the judicial report findings. Iowa caucus vote totals delayed and inconsistencies. This is going to get ugly, and it is not going to be resolved over the course of the election cycle. This is just going to continue to get ugly. I'm just throwing Fox up, not just because it's the first thing. I'm not a Fox person, much to the dismay of some people who'd like to pigeonhole me. Iowa caucus vote totals delayed amid inconsistencies. Campaigns lash out at crazy state party. There we go. The Democratic Party, the IDP. Not to be confused with the IDF. Still has not reported official vote totals in the critical Iowa caucuses as of early Tuesday morning. In a large, unexplained, and unprecedented delay that has raised questions about the legitimacy of the contest, and Democratic campaign officials are livid. Fox News has learned. The Trump campaign, meanwhile, openly suggested the delay meant the caucuses were being rigged, and that the embarrassing night provided that proved that the Democratic Party cannot be trusted to run Americans' health care and implement sweeping new government programs. Even if a winner were ultimately announced, the chaos and confusion has seemingly erased any hope for the major momentum boost that would normally result. So I think Michael Bloomberg is somewhere in this mix. That's my sense. He's in the mix, not in the chaos mix, but he's in the mix overall. And I think Bloomberg will wind up being the candidate that ultimately runs against Trump. They don't want Bernie. They don't want Bernie as their candidate. They don't want him. We talked about Bernie last night, Emily and I. And look, I can't blame them that they don't want Bernie, but their alternatives are pure hot trash. They're all hot trash. Liz Warren, Amy Klobuchar. Could you imagine President Amy Klobuchar? Could you imagine that? Could you imagine her like, now, ladies and gentlemen, President Klobuchar. Jesus. The lack of gravitas there is stunning. And then you got Mayor Pete kind of hanging around, although he was not able to be a part of the, and we should have known this because the Democrats had a poll. And then they wouldn't release the results of the poll yesterday. It was like the pre-Iowa caucus poll. They wouldn't release it. Oh, why? Well, because Pete Buttigieg was, not on the poll results. They didn't release it for a reason, because Bernie Sanders was probably at the top of the list. And they certainly are not invested in any kind of democratic process with him. They showed that last year. Or actually not last year, but in 2016. Where they basically railroaded him, and got him out of the process there. Let me find this Judicial Watch story. And this is really one of the big problems we have now, and it's because of the Democrats, progressives, and even the fat cat Republicans who like cheap labor. They've allowed this flood of immigration and refugees to come into the country, and now they're going to start to tilt these elections in even more of a radical way than they've done in the past. 8 Iowa counties have total registration rates larger than eligible voter population. At least 18,658 extra names on Iowa voting poll rolls. Geez, I wonder how they got there. How did this happen? So we got Dallas County, Johnson County, Lyon County, Madison County, Potomac County, Dickinson County, Scott County, Warren County. What did Liz Warren do in Warren County? So the registration rate in these counties, look at this. Here's the population. The registration rate is through the freaking roof. And look, I know there's a lot of Americans out there who still believe in the system and are patriotic, but are you kidding me? And look at these counties right here. 2% over, 2% over, 2% over, 7% over, 14. Rounded off to 15, rounded off to 8, rounded off to 3, 3. Just look at that. That's crazy. Absolutely crazy. The process is broken. It's totally broken. And we're seeing the ravages of unchecked immigration, just in terms of voting. And I know a lot of you out there, screw voting, fuck voting. Voting doesn't, yeah, look, I'll stand by your side, okay? And at the same time, it shows you how broken the system is. And I think to a large extent, that kind of malfeasance and malfunction can also be hardwired into the actual process itself. So we're meant to see that the system is broken. That's part of it. Let me check in with you guys, see where you're at. Beings of light do not require a circle to appear. The circle is used for protection and invoker. Okay. I agree with that. And he's talking about magic. Let's see. What else do we have here? Hasn't China shut down 80% of its economy? It's getting close. It's getting close. Oh, it looks like Masaki's in the chat. Let's see what we have here. All Dem candidates are full-blown Marxist. I would agree with that. Bernie is the strongest candidate, but stands no chance against Trump, which is another reason why they're freaked out. DNC needs a centrist candidate. They're not going to find it. Michael Bloomberg is the one candidate that, and I told you, I talked about this I talked about this on Friday. Anyway, I talked about it on the Matrix Mash with Emily, which should be up, I think, today. So, friend of the show shared with me some information about a guy who follows these things over on Facebook and other places. And he was in North Austin, and he was in a store, and there were a bunch of obviously refugees in North Austin. So he started talking to them, and he found out that they were from the Congo. They were Congolese. And he found out that they get $45,000 upon arrival, and they get the debit cards. They also get places to live. And they were and so he asked them, how did you get here? And they said, Satan brought us here. And they were referring to the Pope. So that's the Catholic Church. And then they said that we were told not to tell anybody. And then they said that Michael Bloomberg will be our president. So file that away. And Bloomberg, by the way, is the only person that's running serious ads right now. He's everywhere. He's got a huge war chest. He's everywhere. And at that time, we're going to have, right around the November election, Saturn and Jupiter will both be ingressing into Aquarius. And Bloomberg's an Aquarian. I'll talk more about Bloomberg maybe tomorrow. I think he's worth another kind of conversation. So what I want to do is I want to leave you with this Super Bowl ad that really caught my attention. And it's completely bizarre and definitely has some elements of predictive programming, especially as it relates to the coronavirus. Didn't they have a car called the Toyota Corona? There was a Corona, wasn't it? Or was it a Corolla? I think it's a Corolla. I know it was a Corolla. Let me see. Let me just for my own edification. Toyota Corona. Let me just see here. I know there's a Corolla. Yeah, there was a Toyota Corona. How about that? That's right. I thought there was a Toyota Corona, and they created it. It was made between 1957 and 2001. The word Corona is Latin for crown. So Toyota is known for the Corona. How about that? And here we have this Toyota Super Bowl commercial, the maker of the Corona, by the way. And I'll play it for you now. It was one of the most bizarre commercials in the Super Bowl. And of course, sound is down here. So it starts off right here where there's obviously a hazmat danger. Something has gone awry, and these tanks are leaking something quite toxic. And let's go. Yep, here they go, putting all this stuff into their getaway vehicle. They're wearing red hazmat suits. And then who do we have here? Hey, it's the Asian guy. It's the Asian guy in a hazmat suit. In an area that is now dangerously toxic. So see you later. Look, see you later. There's no hope for him. Everybody else is left, and you can see the toxic spew beginning to cloud around him. But don't fear. The maker of the Toyota Corona is here with their new crossover. And Super Soccer Mom, because we know that women are empowered enough to be able to save the world, including this poor bastard who has to outrun some kind of a toxic emergency. Come on, get in the car. Okay, now he's in the car. Now here we have the bad guys, Wild West scenario, all dressed in black. And here is our hero. Oh, we got to pause. What happened here? Take no prisoners. He sends his kids off with his wife, and he's going to face them. Oh, and here comes Soccer Mom. Jump on in. Oh, so this is Adam. Adam, the first man. Okay, here we go. Now she's off. And what do we have in the background here? We have more smoke in the background, right? So we see this catastrophe in the background, whatever that is, the burning of a town. So she's off. Oh, look at this. Now, this is an interesting scene because this is right out of John Carpenter's movie, The Thing, which is a remake of another version of The Thing. Very scary movie. And it's scientists in the Arctic who are working with something that had crashed to Earth, and they're growing this thing, and they're using different chromosomes and blood to keep this thing alive, and the thing winds up essentially terrorizing the entire research facility deep into the Arctic. And now we have this gal who's trying to stand her ground and fight the thing. Another empowered woman, by the way. Another empowered woman. And it's like, get in. So now she's got these three in the car. It's nice, it's a nice diverse carpool, isn't it? That's what I think. And then it's like, oh, that's not its mouth. Actually kind of funny. Oh, I just had this washed. Now she's there to get her kid. Oh, and she's a mom. Not only that, but she's a mom, and his girl is saying bye in the taxi. 780p959. Okay. So then she picks him up. Room for two. Room for you two. There's a sign. Thanks, Mom. So then all these guys are in the car. Howdy, hello. Again, apparently she makes a practice of saving people and saving the world. Wherever they need you. And then right here, it says Zombie Bay. And that's where they're headed next. Zombie Bay. And then here's that creature. It almost looks like a Stranger Things kind of a thing, too. So there you go. I thought probably the most interesting and telling of all the Super Bowl commercials, right? Especially that early scene where you have the Asian guy in the hazmat suit and Toyota, the manufacturer of the Corona. Here we go. All right, let me check in with you. Chatlandia, best chat in the YouTubes. Let's see where you're at. Let's see. Hasn't China shipped? Okay, what do you got? I'm so sick of the way everything is casted. I know it's really boring, isn't it? It's totally boring. Well, I just lost you guys for some reason. Hold on. Where'd you go? Taking a while now. I'm about ready to get out of here. I got to jump into a session shortly. Let me just giddy up into the moment, into the present. See where we're at. That was fun, the commercial breakdown. Thanks, Robert. Sam Elliott. Oh, the Sam Elliott commercial was pretty cool, right? With Old Town Road. Yeah, that was pretty cool. We're the upside down for sure. Yes, we are. When they ban your national anthem, they welcome my new Irish friends. They nicked my harp off the tricolor flag too. So if you're Irish, come into the parlor. I am Irish. The coding that the coronavirus has is common with HIV, its ability to attach to people's cells. That is very, very true. How is this commercial entertaining? It's not entertaining at all. It's not meant to entertain you on some level, but it is. Andrew Yang on the Rubin Report. Get the bag, Yang Gang. Was it the Yang Gang Bang? Is that what you're trying to get to, Masaki? All right. It's time for me to say goodbye for today. I'll be back tomorrow, right around 8:30. And if you want to subscribe, go over to my website, robertphoenix.com. There's levels there for you to subscribe into. For those of you who have subscribed already, thank you for doing that. I'll put a link here in the show page if you guys want to jump on over and help keep the lights on and keep this thing going. I'll look at the coronavirus again tomorrow and try to find I've got some other ideas around the coronavirus as well, and try to bring out some more. Real quick, Sticky, you'll get a kick out of this. I wanted to bring this up. You'll get a kick out of this. So supposedly the one guy that beat the coronavirus is this dude right here. First Brit to contract coronavirus, refused drugs and beat infection with hot whiskey and honey. Ladies and gentlemen, this is your coronavirus rebel and hero. Corona Chan can't stop the Englishman. He's got his thumbs up with his little mask. A little glass of hot whiskey and honey. Here's your coronavirus cure right there. Sticky, I thought you would enjoy that. Okay, I'm out of here. Use your head to discern what's real, your heart to say what's possible. I'm Robert Phoenix. Thanks for viewing. I'll be back again tomorrow. Have yourself an absolutely fantastic, wonderful day. And we'll see you then. Bye for now.